Hello, YouTube. Hello to you and itinerant wanderers and temporary tenants of planet Earth, whatever this planet may be in its reality. And I think this is my thought, another bit of a synopsis. I've been off last video, I think was about a week ago. And I have thought about my situation as a human being and what it means to be alive at this time. I reiterate, we are in perilous times in terms of this reality, and I think this is my point. If you've been a fan of Star Trek and the Jean-Luc Picard, or maybe it was even Captain Kirk, maybe it was Captain Kirk who said that space, the final frontier. Well, I would say, in fact, that may well be a diversion and part of the subterfuge to consider space the final frontier, if in fact space exists. I have grave doubts these days about the nature of our reality, and I would even say that reality is our final frontier from a physical perspective, from a physical being that requires clean air, clean water, food that sustains us, which is being manipulated and destroyed. And I think that my contribution, the people that may listen to me and come across my videos, what I would like to say is that my contribution has always been to create a context for what it is that I experience, and because I'm a human being, verified, I am a human being like so many others, we have things in common. And what I think is most important for me, what is important to me is not to be, what I've said, caught in the headlights of someone else's story. I feel very motivated to create my own story. Whether you like it or not, or whether you think it's relevant or irrelevant, it's something that'll come out in the wash over time, over decades, over millennia even. We kind of figure things out as we regurgitate and understand and re-understand and go over things. I mean, we revise, we revision, we see things in a new light. I think this is very important, to continuously have an open mind about what it is that makes us go, what it is that works, what it is that doesn't work. So there is this reflection that goes on within me, and I think it's part of every human being. Like, I'm thinking about a human being that actually feels themselves to be a part of something, not basically the psychotic, psychopathic types that just see themselves as isolated from everything and everyone and just do stupid things all the time. This is like, to hurt or destroy is basically not having this sense of being attached, being part of something, which is why people quite often, I think we see this all around us, how, the Monty Python skit about run away, run away, run away. If you can get away with something, or if you can escape something, run away. But somehow I don't believe we can escape certain aspects of our reality. It'll come back to haunt us, or it'll come back, it'll catch up with us. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. I think there is a wisdom in something that has been understood over time. And I would say, contrary to Star Trek, reality is the final frontier. Now, the way I make my work as a painter, reality is very important to me because, okay, reality from the point of view that there is an existence, there is something that feels to be outside of myself. I have an inner world, I have an outer world. And I've said the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. I think this is individually and it works collectively. So one of the things that is important to me is to maintain focus and attention on that which matters most. And I've always said that the struggle to come to terms with that part of our, the essential part of our being, which for lack of a better word, again, I would say is this inner world. And it's difficult to verbalize certain notions of our understanding because it's not really part of a language in terms of words. It may be a language in terms of visuals or auditory. We have ways of communicating that is not just words. And there is a tendency for people to have lost this connection to the idea of communicating. The power of communication isn't just words. And I mean, painters understand this, artists for the most part understand this. If they don't, they're delusional, they're in the wrong game. If you don't, if you think that you have to explain your work and be a verbal person, unless you're a writer, of course, and writers obviously don't attach themselves to language as a regurgitation of letters and words. They are creative, and writers create, communicate through creating a sense of something rather than articulating it specifically. So this now comes back. I'm going to synopsize my week and what I'm thinking. Reality is the final frontier. That my sense of being is very much attached to what I would say exposing the bastards, which is what happens, generally speaking, about within the alternative media. This is, I think, the thrust, the desire is to expose, to reveal, for the most part, the misdeeds which are mounting up to the point where I say we are under threat. We are under incredible threat because the misdeeds have ratcheted up, aided, I think, to a large extent by what is understood to be culture, civilization, the functional part of our existence as it is represented by, for example, technology, not by the stories that the artists might tell, but by technology. We always think of ourselves, well, first I need to establish my well-being in terms of the things that I accumulate, in terms of a car or furniture that I sit on, and all those things, practical things, make a lot of sense. But I think what has happened, and this is my sense of reality being the final frontier, that our attention, our focus, something I've noticed in myself early on, was shifted away from that which leads me to this sense of self that can tell the story I need to tell, that will have a benefit, for other people like myself as well. It's not just for me, but it's this feeling that reality is something that contributes to my well-being. Now, it may seem peculiar to refer to like the idea of existing now. And what is important to me right now is, like I said, we want to expose the misdeeds, but more importantly, how can I identify something of importance to me if I don't know the circumstances that I'm in? This is what I will call, in this video, I will call reality, the final frontier. And part of this reality is what has been established through my extended family. And I'm talking now about the meaningful people in my life, which isn't just when I say family, people that have the same bloodlines as myself, but I'm talking about people that have contributed to my well-being through their own insight and understanding and the brilliance of what it might be as it is reflected in their work. An artist making an amazing painting that inspires me is my extended family. If I associate myself with that clan, with that group of people that go way back, that have always been an important presence for people, amongst us, for each other. And what is this notion that I have? I'm going to now just synopsize what is really crucial and important, because we're facing such dire circumstances with the nuclear reptiles, these monsters that have taken the field and are basically destroying all life on this planet. I just heard a report on CBC as it happens. You can go back on October 17th. A biologist or a researcher, a biologist, a researcher went into the Costa Rican jungle. He went there 40 years ago, observed a lot of life, and the last, or 2 years ago, he went back, or they've been studying life as long as 40 years ago, and they come back, and there's virtually no microbiological and small creature life in this jungle, meaning that the food chain has been disrupted, that the large creatures will not survive without the smaller creatures. Where have you heard this? Where have you heard this? Chernobyl, this biologist, etymologist, or is it entomologist? I think entomology is the study of microbiological life. Etymology is language. Timothy Mousseau researched life in Chernobyl, microbiological life, and found virtually no microbiological life in the exclusion zone in Chernobyl. And this is now apparently happening in a jungle in Costa Rica, a pristine place for the last 40 years. But mysteriously to these researchers, life appears to be ending. So as we all know, people who are of my ilk, my clan, have understood that we're under threat, monumentally under threat. And what is it that I will contribute? I'm not going to give you the facts as they're presented by a lot of good people that have understood the circumstances through the facts of our situation. I have just as an a priori, understood we're under threat because of this specific misdeed that has occurred over the last 70 years called nuclear power, nuclear generation. The age of fission, as I call it, has taken over our reality. So the reality check, the final frontier that I need to face, that I need to understand, is it is fundamentally a comprehensive review of who I am in the existence that I lead. We all need to make this step. We all need to make this fundamental step of questioning the reality we live in. And I bring up Fukushima and the nuclear monster because, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can tell, this is the most pressing, urgent issue that would prevent me from having a life that is sustained by clean air, clean water, clean food. There are many other factors. I've said to people, pick your fight. You can pick your fight on chemicals. You can pick your fight on Agent Orange, on the pharmaceuticals. You can pick your fight on vaccines. I'm just, for myself, I understand this is the overwhelming reality that I've understood. Now here's I'm going to wrap it up here, and I'm going to make my message for the week. That until I've understood that the entire notion of myself needs to be rediscovered, in a sense discovered, probably for the first time. We are all in this together for the first time. People have structured our existence based on ideas, philosophies. You have mechanics, Newtonian physics, you have You have Copernicus, you have Kepler, you have the church, you have the spiritual side of things, you have what is considered to be the physical side of things. These aspects all need to become questioned and questionable in our day-to-day existence. From the nitty-gritty, the smallest thing in terms of my relationship, to the largest concepts about where do we fit into the scheme of things cosmically, if you want to call it that. And I have decided definitively that which I've been told is totally untrue. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny. Like, for example, the idea we're spinning on a ball at 1,000 miles an hour. This makes no sense whatsoever, based on the observations that we have. And you can argue and draw all your defenses from pictures and images that come from an outfit called NASA that continuously doctor all the stuff that you rely on in order to form an opinion. All I'm saying is, drop it, get off your high horse, and just look at experience from a realistic point of view, like we're just starting out again. I'm seeing my life as I'm beginning again. It's like the final frontier is to begin again. And obviously there are things that have fed me, that I've learned from people before me, that I respect and admire. I'm not going to drop those people. I've said, you know, if I had a choice, give me mud huts and wooden shoes, and I'll go with that in order to get rid of this fission monster. And I am 100% on board with that. If I was to sacrifice all the gains we've made as a human being over time, thousands of years, I would say, give me the wood shoes and the mud huts, and I'll give it a go based on creating a reality that is actually working, not just functioning the way we experience things, because there's a difference between functioning and working. It's not working. So all I'm saying, this is my shout out, what I'm saying is, whatever your fight is, go and fight your fight. Go and expose the bastards. But do not comply with a system that has given you something that is unverifiable. I'm saying that we need to question everything. What does it mean for 62 nations to have signed an accord on Antarctica, and you're not allowed to go into that area of our planet, supposedly, whatever this platform we're on, whether it's a ball or whether it's an oblate or whether it's a disc or whatever, a dome. We can't go to a certain place because a bunch of countries have gotten together and said you can't go down there. You're not allowed. I'm saying that there are so many anomalies within our structures, the way we actually accept things, that should not be acceptable to us if they don't make sense. Like you can't go down to Antarctica to take a skidoo, whatever it is, and journey across that continent, supposedly, whatever that is, and come out on the other end. It's never been done. There are things that are so monumentally colossal lies, like people went to the moon, is such an incredible, obvious lie that people have. It's like an outrage to my sense of reality. When you look into all the explanations that make no sense, and then you say, la, 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 I don't want to hear la, la, la. I had a conversation with a very highly educated person who just shut down as soon as I said, well, I have my doubts about the whole moon story scenario. And it's like, they said, oh yeah, you think the earth is flat too. And I said, actually, I don't know what it is, but I know that you have no clue because number one, you've had no experience about what it is that you're defending. But he'll defend it till the end. He'll go down into his grave. So my last point. Today, reality is our final frontier. We're not going to make any headway on all the important issues until we each of us begin to tell our story through our experience. And that means understanding the experience and the existence that we're actually living in. So this is my recommendation. Question everything about what it is that our parents or our teachers or anyone has told us, and we need to verify it. because we're not gonna succeed against the bastards who are just manipulating us. The reason we have Fukushima and this monster breathing down our neck is because we haven't done our work, people. We haven't done our work. We need to do it every day. We need to do our personal work in order to succeed. And it's not enough to stand on your platform and scream at the bastards and all the stupid people out there. This is something that's very irritating to me. Please, if you're listening to me and you have your platform and you ridicule people because they're stupid, it's just leave it alone. People aren't ready to hear what you have to say. Just leave it alone. Tell your story. Tell your story without being vicious and nasty. There's no need for it. Just people are who they are. We need to become more conscious of our story every day. And that's how we're going to win. That's how we're going to win. This is how we're going to create a humanity that's actually living up to its potential, whatever that potential might be. That's how I feel. That's how I think. So reality, the final frontier.